Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand TV. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal brand and business development company. I want to take you on a journey through another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal stories, business conversations, and tips to improve your brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand TV series, you will differentiate yourself from the competition and build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build confidence, and reflect who you are. Building your 5-star personal brand is a great way to improve your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or any of my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh@5starbdm.com. Now, let's begin with our next episode on the Follow the Brand TV.
Five-Star BDM, Brand Development Masters, is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for the small to mid-sized business and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share business development challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement and operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. This results in more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Visit www.5starbdm.com today to learn more.
Who sort of understand the power of technology, but also understand that, healthcare, medicine, it is about people. We are in the humanity business. Well, look, I think mis and disinformation affects the whole industry, from the life sciences space, the med device space, the payer provider space. I think if we all tackle it together, there are ways to partner with life science companies, med tech companies, and patient advocacy groups, right?
Welcome, everybody, to the Follow Brand Podcast. This is your host, Grant McGaugh, and I get the opportunity to interview one of the most well-known figures, I believe, in healthcare and technology and also women. And we're going to have a conversation around humanity in healthcare, which we just had this talk, and I was like, wow, you think that's always been in healthcare, humanity, the human component. But I think we get lost along our journey because there's so many facets to the healthcare systems that we forget why we're doing it in the first place. So I want to introduce you to Dr. G, as she's so affectionately known as, and like to get her introduced to us. Let's have a candid conversation, Dr. G.
Hey, Grant. Well, thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate you having the conversation with me and asking the right question.
Well, that's what it's all about. We have to ask the right question because you are a wealth of information. And I want to know something that's always intrigued me. Because there's a lot of chief medical officers out in the world. However, there's only one Dr. G. How did you make this transition to becoming so well known? I know you work for Salesforce, you work for AT&T, but you are a well-known figure. Tell us about that journey?
Well, thanks. Well, first of all, you're making me feel really good, so thanks. And let me know what you're doing tomorrow morning. Get my day started. Um, no, I think what has been interesting for me is in so much of what I've done, like many of us, I've either been in the wrong place at the wrong time or the right place at the right time. And I don't think I'm alone. I think there are many physicians who sort of understand the power of technology, but also understand that, healthcare medicine, it is about people. We are in the humanity business. And unfortunately, in the spirit of trying to move healthcare forward, right, the electronic health record being a good example, we moved 3 steps forward and about 5 steps back, right? Whether we contributed to physician burnout or we stopped looking patients in the eye because we were so busy looking at our computers. So I think much of this has just been new territory. And so docs like me or other healthcare leaders like myself are really trying to now, in this next era of innovation, particularly when we think about artificial intelligence, trying to get us to get it right. And I fundamentally believe it's about keeping the humanity in medicine and leaving the technology to allow us to do that, right? Figuring out the right things to automate versus the things that simply can't be replaced by technology. But it is a bit of a nuance, and it is a bit of a dance.
I truly get that. I've been in technology 25 years and I understand it. And I've always looked at it, it's an enablement tool, not a replacement tool. It's an enabler. And because I haven't been sick a lot, so I haven't had to engage with the healthcare system as a patient very often. And when I discovered that the docs and the patients, they have this interface between them, the EHR, electronic health system or health record, and they've spent 1 hour with the patient, 2 hours on the EHR, just inputting information. So you're taking someone and making them a data entry person. I was like, why? That is so inefficient. I don't understand why they're doing that. Now, we're going to talk about that, but you wrote this book on Dead Wrong, which also got my attention. Misinformation. Now, think about it. You got data entry, then you've got misinformation. That could be a soup for a lot of challenges. Would you agree?
Well, absolutely. And it's demoralizing, right? So not only is it inefficient, but it's really demoralizing for physicians, nurses, the whole care team who really went into, for the most part, a purpose-driven profession. And so when a patient walks in and says, doc, I read about this thing and I think I'm going to stick with these supplements as opposed to the medication you might recommend. And on top of that, you're burnt out. And on top of that, you need to over document that conversation because it's not the standard of care. And you have to document all the things that you discuss, the pros, the cons, et cetera. So it has become a complicated environment to practice in. But therein lies the opportunity, right, for technologists such as ourselves to really flip that narrative.
Go to medical school to play with technology, right, to work on technology. Went to medical school to be a doctor, and I think that's really actually the biggest thing we have to remember is not missing the forest for the trees, which is what do we do in healthcare? Where do you sit within the healthcare industry? If it's on the payer side, if it's on the provider side, understanding the forest that you're in is first fundamental. And then the technology is there to enable that. Right? It's there to enable whatever piece of the ecosystem you're in, but always remembering who is the end user and who are you serving. When the EHR revolution happened, every EHR company, every IT person I ever talked to, and this is me working in big tech, would say, those damn doctors, they just don't understand technology. Why won't they use it? They just don't like change. Well, spoiler alert, doctors love technology. They love CT scanners, MRIs, stethoscopes. We are the king of cutting edge research, kings and queens of cutting edge research. But only if it works, right? Only if it works. When you as a product person blame the end user, when you as a technology expert blame the end user, you have already failed. because you should understand your end users so well that they would adopt your technology just like an Apple product out of the box. Why do I have to be trained on an EHR for hours and hours and hours? Because it is not intuitive. Nothing about it is intuitive. And it takes me 6 clicks to do the thing that used to just take me 1 stroke of a pen. So understanding that technology is not the issue. You must understand where you sit in healthcare, and then what is the problem you are solving that technology will improve, or, as it has happened too often in health tech, hinder. And really, really understanding that. And it's not the popular opinion, as I sit here and the crowd is very, very quiet, but it's the truth. It is the truth. And in any doctor's lounge across any hospital in America, we doctors literally give each other what we call workarounds. Hey, Lorenzo, I got this workaround for lupus. Do you want it? It takes 3 clicks instead of 5. It's like a drug deal in the doctor's lounge. And we literally work around the IT departments to get our jobs done. Now, that's not a great compliment, right? IT needs to be in that doctor's lounge. They need to understand why those conversations are happening and say, you know what? Now I get it. Thanks for your time, doc. Now I understand. There has to be a partnership. We do healthcare in silos. We do it great in silos. Tech talks to tech, and they're like, wow, I really like your thing. Doctors talk to doctors. You gotta find that marriage. You gotta work across the silos. Interoperability, you gotta work across the silos, and that's the only way you do it, by really understanding the ultimate end user. Is it the doctor? Is it the patient? It's one of them. Somewhere in that ecosystem, you are talking to an end user, so you need to understand them. That is first and foremost.
Grant McGaw, CEO of 5-Star BDM, is turning heads in the healthcare and information technology sectors with his groundbreaking approach to personal branding and business development. By challenging conventional strategies, he's setting a new standard for how executives present themselves and their businesses to the world. McGaw's expertise isn't just about standing out. It's about strategic guidance, generating leads, and building networks that propel executives beyond their competition. His focus on authenticity allows leaders to leverage their unique stories, driving exponential growth and success in their industries. Beyond branding, McGaw is a fervent advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. He's committed to helping organizations cultivate environments where innovation and collaboration thrive through inclusive cultures. And for those eager to dive deeper, McGaw hosts the Follow the Brand podcast. Here, he unpacks the intricacies of personal branding and business growth, offering valuable insights for professionals eager to redefine their identities and share their narratives with the world.
It's so important because not only are you a physician, but you also took on this mantle of understanding technology, how you can utilize technology to get better health outcomes. You know, that's really the goal, is better health outcomes. How did you make that? I mean, you worked at Salesforce, you worked at AT&T, you do a lot of work with HIMSS. Did you just have the passion to be both a physician and a technologist and just kind of merge those things together to create the Dr. G that we know today?
You're so funny, Grant. I love you. You're great. Look, I just happened to, like I said, be in the right place at the right time. My generation of physicians went from paper to digital in our residency, actually. And so I very much saw what paper allowed us to do, which was look our patients in the eye, write a short but meaningful note that perhaps only 2 people could read. And then the digital note, which now, for those of us who were around during the Encyclopedia Britannica, is now the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's actually not very meaningful. It's quite long, often copied and pasted from multiple folks. And we no longer look our patients in the eyes. And even though we were promised this would be information we shared, we still have the same data silos that we had in paper, right? So physicians like me really understood what paper and technology could do side by side. Now, that isn't to say that there's not more opportunity to get this right. We've seen this. We see that telemedicine is now here to stay. We see that analytics is a possibility, things we can do with clinical trials. So there's so much opportunity because of the EHR infrastructure that has been started, but there's still lots of gaps. There's still lots of gaps that we're faced with that we had even when we had paper. And so really that's what I've, dedicated myself to is just how do you get this right in this era where there's no dearth of technology, but how do we also do it in a way that empowers both the patient and the physician? Because there really is no good consumer experience if there's also not a good physician experience.
I agree. I totally agree with all of that. And you got a lot of, I would say, airtime during the COVID time period. And that there was a lot of information or misinformation out there. COVID was a test. Talk about a worldwide test of all of our healthcare systems and our knowledge around healthcare. You even alluded to earlier, a lot of people are like, do maybe self-diagnose themselves. They're like, you know what? I feel I can do this, I'll do that. And then not listening to a physician who has a lot of experience and they're kind of diagnosing on their own. You wrote this book on Dead Wrong. What motivated you to write this book, and what are you hoping that people will get out of it as they read through it?
Thanks, Grant. So look, the inspiration for the book was really the way I felt when COVID happened. I was actually sitting here in my home office, and I remember it feeling like a deja vu moment from the HIV/AIDS epidemic. And the book actually starts out in chapter 1 with my patient, Jerome, who dies from AIDS. And it was a very similar public health crisis in that myth and disinformation was taking over the narrative. And I talk about Jerome to his dying day, insisting that he was not a homosexual, could not possibly have AIDS, and I was clearly wrong as his physician. And we saw the same thing with COVID, right? The stakes being just as high with regards to infection control, with regards to morbidity and mortality. And I felt it was the time to tell this story because in healthcare, as healthcare leaders, as clinicians, we've always accepted that people got the facts wrong. We've always accepted that myth and disinformation was just part of the wallpaper at the hospital. It was just something in the background. We didn't really pay attention to it. But what's happened in the era of technology that we're in is that myth and disinformation is actually getting worse because of technology, right? And because of the consumer-centric world that we have, and because we have devices on every wrist, every finger, everything we can carry is carrying information in a way that we didn't have in the past. So while myth and disinformation may have been around since the Black Plague, it's now actually getting harder to get the facts and the truth out there. And we've lost a lot of trust in science, particularly since COVID. So the book is really a call to action to healthcare leaders to say, no one is coming to save us and no one is coming to save our patients. And it's time that we start deciding what the wallpaper is in the hospitals that we practice, because inevitably, it really is us that clean up the mess, right? Inevitably, the patient who doesn't get the prevention, doesn't get the medication, doesn't see the doctor, ends up in the emergency room and generally overburdens the system and also has a really poor outcome, right? So how do you instead flip the narrative, and we as science experts or medical experts or healthcare leaders owning that conversation, owning the narrative, and also putting technology strategies in play that understand that 59 million Americans turn to social media for decisions about their healthcare, that understand that we have a workforce shortage and burnout issue. So there just are less people to answer the question for the average consumer, right? And so how do we actually, in a post-pandemic world, meet the moment and understand that myth and disinformation is, in fact, one of the issues we need to handle and not just an afterthought as it has been to date.
I'm not perfect. I've made bad mistakes. I've had horrible things happen in my life, but I just share them. I'm transparent with it, and I think that connects with people. My particular cancer, which was prostate cancer, like as a guy, that's like even more like, you know, because like that hits you where it hurts, you know, literally, quite literally, in a sense. It's like, you know, people don't want to talk about it. Men don't want to talk about it. So as a result, it gets underreported and underdiagnosed, and is one of the leading causes of cancer that could be definitely stopped.
Pernell Londono. I am a AI strategist. I've been a technologist for 30 years, and now I'm with Dell Technologies as an AI strategist. So happy to be here. Everybody's worrying about the practical application of anything specifically, let's say cloud. And then in the background, there is this need about understanding what is responsible, what is ethical, what is fair.
Exciting time to be in digital marketing with the advent, the explosion of generative AI chatbots, better known as ChatGPT. There's Bard, there's Claude, there's all kinds of this new one came out called Gemini. There's so many different tools that really what it comes down to is that it's made my business more precise. I can do things more quicker, I would say, and to elevate my brand messaging to a level that allows me to be as creative as possible. Digital market economy is taking the world by storm, probably over the last decade or so, but is really escalating now in the advent of AI because it is a game changer for a lot of businesses. It's not just all the big boys that can play in this space because of cloud computing, because of mobile computing, and now you have these tools at your disposal. You've got a laptop, you've got a computer, you can now digitize yourself to a level and get your message out there, and that equates to business. That's so important. Meet the moment. I love how you just stated that and being transparent about the situation. We are in the consumerization of healthcare, and we're getting inundated with a lot. I see so many ads, but I never understood it, to be honest. And I hope our pharma people will listen to this podcast because as a consumer, I sit there and I see these advertisements on different medications. And I'm like, I'm not a physician. Why would I know or make a decision about this type of pill that possibly can help me. I'm not sure. And then I always say that at the end, they always have these disclaimers about stuff has this side effect, that side effect, this side effect, all this other stuff. And I'm like, wow, does this actually work? People actually go out and buy this stuff and tell their doctor I'm going to take this instead. I'm not sure. I think there's a lot there is a lot of confusion in this space, and I don't know how it all works, but there's a lot out there. I don't know. I want to ask you a candid question. Do you think that type of marketing of pharma is effective?
Well, look, I think mis and disinformation affects the whole industry, from the life sciences space, the med device space, the payer provider space. I think if we all tackle it together, there are ways to partner with life science companies, med tech companies, and patient advocacy groups, right? Because it does help. It does help in terms of patients being aware there are treatments, funny names being made mainstream. One of the things we saw during COVID was people, knowing the name of vaccines that never had occurred before, right? Did you get the Pfizer shot? Did you get the J&J shot? Right? That was kind of funny, humorous for doctors because no one's ever asked us that before, right? It was just the flu shot before. And so in some ways it does raise awareness, in some ways it raises education, but it always is the right balance and the right partnership. And I'll give you a simple example. So as a rheumatologist, we give some pretty complicated biologics, and there are a lot of side effects. So when the commercials say, liver disease, renal disease, and they narrate it out, it's the truth. But by having that introduced to my patient in tandem with me, then we talk about it, and I'm able to say, look, the reality is there are side effects to this drug, just like there are to Tylenol, by the way, if you look at the side effects on Tylenol. But when managed correctly, when we partner together, when we do blood work regularly, when we dose things correctly, when we monitor your symptoms, those are unlikely. The risk benefit in medicine, we always weigh the risk and the benefit. There's always risk. You cross the street, there's a risk, right? But the benefit is you get somewhere, you're going somewhere. And if you're mindful, right? Simple analogy, you look left, you look right, you look left again, you make the dash. It's unlikely, right? You're going to have that risk. So that's the important piece. It's how do we actually all still empower the patient-physician relationships? And so I think there is a role for life science companies, med device companies to empower that relationship. It really comes down to that. And same with the technology. I'll say it again. If you are not getting between the doctor and the patient, you keep the humanity in the center. And the more you can take all of the other inefficiencies in the background away, that's the key. Those are always going to be the strategies, the technology strategies that work. Those are always going to be the mis and disinformation strategies that work. And we just have to get back to basics in many ways.
I agree with you. Back to basics, the human factor, the convergence of humanity, technology, and the clinical world. And what does that look like? Now, I'm going to change the subject just a little bit because another thing I'm very impressed with, and I work with some of these large technology companies, and you don't see a lot of women in the technical space. And also even in the medical space at the higher levels, you have been able to transverse both of those. And you're an advocate for women in leadership and that type of thing. If you were a woman today and you just, got out of school, perhaps you're now on that track to become a physician, what advice would you give to them?
Well, this is actually one of the things I'm very intentional about. And in my book, you'll see that there are two young female illustrators. One is my daughter, who's 12, but at the time was 10 or 9. And Sneha Akarati, who is now a first-year medical student. She was a pre-med student at the time, did the illustrations for the book. And I'll tell you, Grant, it's about being intentional. So I'm a big believer that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And so I would say for my generation, those who are in the industry, both men and women, creating opportunities for people, but then also reaching out. I think the 20s and 30s in particular, finding potential female leaders in their 20s and 30s, it's the biggest delta. It's the biggest delta. If someone in my 20s or 30s had given me a stair step to just climb, I could have avoided a lot of missteps. I could have avoided many hardships. And I think what I would say is if STEM is your passion, STEM is the way you change the world. And to be unapologetic in looking for mentors, both men, women, culturally, For myself, the South Asian community is one I have invested in and has invested in me. But wherever you find it, because I've had any number of mentors that are largely not from my community and are largely more men than women. I simply couldn't find those folks, but I think that has changed progressively. And so one of the things I would say is for women who have reached a certain stature to turn around and look back, right? Turn around and look back. It's really about creating opportunity. I do believe the talent is there, but opening the door, creating an internship, having a conversation. And as a young woman, I think it's raising your hand and being in places and creating networks. Anyone can read a book, but I think having a healthy network, being a collaborative leader and someone who's not afraid of hard work. I mean, these are all things I tell my 12-year-old. So whether you're 12 and above or a female or a male, frankly, I think that's just par for the course if you're looking for an ambitious, impactful career.
I'm a technology strategist, and what that means is I sit with businesses, I try to understand where they want to go, how they want to get there, and figure out how we use technology to get the business there. So my role is actually very simple. It sounds complicated, but it's very simple. I really believe that you have to find your purpose in technology. And no matter what you do, and this could be true for every function, technology, accounting, or whatever have you, right? You have to find your purpose. And that can be hard today in technology because there's so many different things you can do. There's software delivery, cybersecurity, there's virtual reality, there's IoT. I mean, the options are endless.
I have my PhD in biomedical informatics, and I tend to focus and get really passionate around genomics, particularly when we talk about genomics for precision health, genomics for community and population health, so on and so forth, and some of the disparities and differences that manifest themselves in the human body based on your heredity, your ethnicity, your environmental impact and stimulus that's coming from outside of your control, and how that impacts the way you ingest medicine, the way your body takes in that medicine and delivers it throughout your cells. Even though the drug is the same, the dosage is the same, the age, weight, blood pressure, all of these other vital signs may be the same, but the drug may manifest itself differently between these two demographics, just simply based on the differences in their genetic history and in their genomes.
tend to operate more in the vein of what are we doing as an enterprise, as an organization around our goals and our strategy, taking that first, and then looking more broadly across that stack to say, okay, where do we have gaps in the technologies that exist today? But more importantly, where do we have gaps in what we seek to achieve where technology is not going to be as efficient or as adequate as is necessary to meet those targets? So passionate about this space. And again, I've had the great fortune to have had some wonderful mentors and leaders in my time that I've learned so very much from. And I really seek to do the same and to give that back. I love mentoring and seeing people grow. Building those high performing teams is where I really find my greatest value and contribution.
I like that. Intentional. Be intentional. Knock on those doors, and get that seat at the table, and bring a
Well,
folder if you don't have
all
it.
they can say is no. And I think this is something I tell my daughter all the time. Okay, so you get rejected and you're stung for a few minutes. If somebody says no, they were never the right person anyway. But you're not left with this what if moment. What if I had just asked or gotten that business card or made the extra time to go to that event, whatever it might be. But I think sometimes women were like afraid of rejection, or it's a very human thing to just fear rejection professionally, personally, right? And so I think encouraging rejection and encouraging failure. Let me tell you, somebody was asking me this question about the book, and they said, how did you get a publisher? And I said, well, it's very simple. I'm someone who's incredibly motivated by rejection. I was rejected so many times, it only made me more furious. It just made me more furious. And so I just submitted again to somebody else, and then to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And I have this attitude of, in spite of you, I'm going to do this because I'm so passionate about it. And I think you just have to have that thick skin. And I think women sometimes, we internalize a lot of things, and you just can't. It's not personal. It's not for me. I was an untested author. Of course I was going to be rejected. And it actually had nothing to do with whether I was a woman or not. It's hard to get your first break. That's the world. That's the industry. So you chin up and you move forward.
I love that. Love that perspective. And I'm telling you, I've been working with Dr. G, and I reached out to her because she was at HIMSS conference. People don't know HIMSS, Health Informatics Management System Society. It's a big word, right? But it's HIMSS, as everybody knows it, right? I saw her up on stage, and she was moderating a couple of different panels, and I said, wow, she's a great speaker. Then I come to find out that she lives in Miami. I'm in Miami. Like, wow, she went to University of Miami. I said, no wonder would she come and speak at our regional HIMSS Integrate conference. And before that, you had talked about her just doing a segment on for women in technology, and we were looking to do that. Now, you have to be persistent. First of all, to get on her schedule is like I got the golden ticket, right? It's like winning the lotto, right?
You are too funny. You are too funny. Well, I'm thrilled to be there. I always love doing things in South Florida, in Miami, in my hometown, in my community. So thank you for the invite, Grant. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, we're going to have a great time. You're going to come. You're going to kick everything off. We're going to have a wonderful, wonderful one-day conference. You're going to be one of the headlines. We've got also two other individuals that'll be a part of this as well. Actually, it's an all-day conference. So there's many individuals that are going to be a part of this. We want to see if we can get Hal Wolf to make an appearance, but we'll see if we can get him to do that as well. But we'll have Ed Marks also will be speaking. And then Patrick Hale from VITAS, if people are not aware, that's the largest hospice, I would say, I wouldn't call it a hospital, but it is the largest hospice provider in the United States. So they're all going to be there. So give us this. What do you now? You're thinking. I know you're thinking through this. It's going to be in October. Give us a little preview. What do you think is important for that kind of audience, local healthcare and hospital providers, to really hear from you? Because you've got AI that's out there, you've got all kinds of leadership issues out there, you've got a lot, how do we get by with the monies that we have? There's budgeting issues, there's all kinds of things that are out there. What kind of message do you want to give to us?
Look, I think the message I would give to our community, as well as any community in the healthcare space, is that we are in the most exciting time to be a healthcare leader. I mean, we are living in a post-pandemic world where there's no dearth of innovation. Whether you're talking about AI, EHRs, remote monitoring, devices like these that we all have on our wrists and our fingers, there is no dearth of innovation. It is all in the application of it. And we have to, again, we need to focus on what drives revenues in the healthcare space. It's the doctor-patient relationship. What makes people make that appointment? What makes people follow up? What makes people get that mammogram and that colonoscopy? It is fundamentally that relationship. And so whatever piece of the puzzle you're on, you want to ensure that you are not getting in the way of that relationship, whether it is the implementation of AI, whether it is the way you are moving forward with your EHR initiative, whether it's the way you're thinking through your telemedicine strategy. And I'll give you some simple examples, right? With the EHR, for example, we solved 3 problems and we created 5 new ones. We literally launched a scribe service. I mean, the EHR is supposed to document, and then it did it so badly, and it was so non-intuitive to doctors, we now put a 3rd person in the examining room. Meanwhile, the doctor is asking you about your family history, your sexual history, your alcohol, tobacco use, drug history. We changed the relationship, right? And we largely made it an inefficient workflow. I think we have an opportunity to fix that, particularly when it comes to generative AI. And when it comes to things that are not so sexy to talk about, right, Grant? Clinical decision support, prior authorization. That's the friction. That's the friction in healthcare. And if we remove that friction, we will actually improve the relationship and drive those efficiencies of the economics, right? The economics, we can see more patients, we can generate more revenue, we can generate more valuable visits, right? And then finding the right places for telemedicine, which is also very efficient if done correctly, if it's for the right specialty and the right type of patient. So I think that's the next era of healthcare transformation. It requires true healthcare leadership and also a reflection from the technology. We've had technology around for a long time. We've had AI around for a long time. So what are the lessons learned? What are the things that we now need to stop for a minute, reflect and learn, and then point such a powerful technology like generative AI at? But the technology is only going to amplify either our bad habits or our good habits. And so we have to understand that data silos exist. AI is not going to fix that. AI is not going to help us with that. So it's only going to be as smart as those silos, or it's only going to broaden health equity. We have to still fix all the stuff we have to fix, but there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that even if we just start with that and crawl, walk, run, we can get to a much better healthcare system.
The best benefit is, at the end of the day, it's people helping people.
Events like today are so critical to getting out there, meeting other executives from competing healthcare systems, but today under one roof, we all get along.
I found everything really interesting. I loved the AI technology that's coming, all the integrations and the changes that are coming for the future state.
Whole experience overall, it's just outstanding.
Every year it just gets better and better.
It was amazing. I learned so much from all the sessions. I had so much fun. It was awesome.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm looking forward to engaging conversation and looking forward to learning more about healthcare IT and what's on the horizon.
It's a great conference. Everybody that works at South Florida HIMSS makes an incredible event. Probably the best regional event that I go to.
It feels like a family.
Follow the Brand TV broadcast host, Grant McGaw, as he visits with top executives and entrepreneurs to find out their secrets of success with their personal brand. Follow the Brand TV broadcast host as he focuses on brand development to build better relationships, bring value to your business, relationships, and career. You will enjoy listening to each episode that is tailored to speak to you directly. If you're looking for this type of clarity in terms of building your brand, you have tuned into the right station. Each episode will help you to shape a conversation in the 5-Star BDM network of 20,000 professionals and become a springboard for your corporate engagement and business opportunities. Each guest will frame their story in the areas of personal branding, business development, career development, financial empowerment, and technology innovation. Grant McGaw explains why he is the CEO and owner of his own professional career. Grant is an accomplished business leader and entrepreneur who wants to give back to individuals to grow their personal brand strategy. Tune in as he weaves his story about new possibilities, while to you exceed expectations. If you love storytelling, this show will make for fun.
Man, who's your favorite podcaster? Man, Grant, man. I love Grant's podcast. Well, who's Grant? I'm going to send you the link. I love Grant.
I love crawl, walk, run. I'm very, very familiar with that. I think some people get intimidated by technology and they feel like it's a replacement. It's just going to be worse. And I know a lot of people in the clinical space, they saw what happened with the EHRs, as you alluded to, and they're like, oh my God, here's more of a problem. I just want to heal my patient. I want something that helps me do that, not something else that takes away from my clinical support, diagnosis, treatment, all of these things. And we need voices like yourself so people will then understand how they can point and direct different technologies in a way that you do absolutely get better outcomes. Now, one other question, because we got to know this, how do we get a hold of this book that you've got out there and what you're doing? And before we even talk about how to get hold of it, tell me again, what motivated you? What did you feel you were passionate about, you were furious about, that you needed to get this book out there for the public?
Well, again, Grant, thank you so much. I mean, the book is available anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever your local bookstore is. The book is now a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller. So very, very proud of that. And thank you for that. Look, again, for me, it was a flashback to HIV/AIDS, but it was also just a state of the industry, right? State of the industry in an era where 59 million Americans turn to social media for decisions about their healthcare. For an era where now the wearable market is a $54 billion market in 2023, and it was a $24 billion market in 2019. It's telling you the consumer is interested in their health. They're hungry for their health. They're thirsty for their health. So much so they're going to spend money out of pocket to measure their steps, their mood, their pulse, anything that can be measured. The consumer is measuring it, even if they don't know what it means. Even if they don't know what it means, because they are so interested in their health in a post-pandemic world. And so it really is about meeting the moment, understanding that mis and disinformation is the wallpaper we as healthcare leaders need to determine. What should that wallpaper be, right? We can't just be these passive observers saying, yep, that's just the world we operate in. And that no one is really going to save our patients or ourselves. We are going to have to do it as healthcare leaders. This needs to be a strategic priority, whether you're on the payer, provider, life sciences, med tech side. The reality is that mis and disinformation is impacting your business in some capacity. And if you are in charge of consumer experience, if you are in charge of or interested in patient acquisition and retention that drives your revenues, if you're interested in a happy, healthy workforce, this is an issue that you have to tackle. And every organization has someone in charge of that. And yet, whenever I ask who's in charge of the mis and disinformation strategy, no one raises their hand, because it's the wallpaper. And so it's really a call to action to say that has to change, and that the world we're living in and the healthcare world we're living in for tomorrow, this is going to be a bigger and bigger issue.
I totally get that. I love that call to action. So important. I'm going to tell our audience they can definitely tune in to you on LinkedIn. I see a lot of your information on LinkedIn that you have. So Dr. Geeta Nair, you also have a website that people can go to get a lot of your information and book you for speaking engagements.
Thank you, Grant. It's pretty easy to find me. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, we're going to find you here. I think it's on October 24th. You're going to be in South Florida. You're going to be at the HIMSS Integrate. You're going to do some book signings. So if everyone who wants to come down, maybe if they already purchased your book, maybe they can get it signed or they can buy one right there at the conference. I want to thank you again for taking the time to meet with us as this precursor to you coming live here in Miami. You got to get you live in your hometown, right? Sometimes you got to get out. Like, hey, I can just pump my brakes and be right here in the Miami area and do some things. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
You bet. Thanks, Grant. I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. You take care. Bye-bye.
You have to do your work first. You have to research, you have to study, you have to take courses, you have to believe in yourself, and you really have to fight hard. I see concerns, but I also see that as professionals like you and I in the industry, in this space, we need to help people and society by creating policies, frameworks, and guidelines, not only for organization, but for people, because this is going to be, AI is everywhere.
Exposed to all of the cybersecurity domains and that culture and protecting information and data long before cybersecurity was actually, like I said, an industry, and worked technical operations, exploited technical devices, worked in a field in counterterrorism. And then I did that for about a decade and decided I was tired of that life. And I got out and was able to then transfer my skills as an intelligence officer into cybersecurity, which was an emerging industry at the time that I got out. Bridging the gap for that divide that's there by providing the pathways in cybersecurity and education. Like, we are very focused on programming and the type of educational outreach that we can provide to our women so that they're educated and they know the industry that they're getting into.
Ready to build a 5-star brand that stands out and captivates? The Discover the art of crafting a strong and memorable brand identity. From choosing the right colors to making your brand unforgettable on social media, we guide you every step of the way. Learn how to design a brand that resonates deeply with your audience, ensuring they not only remember but love your brand. Whether it's enhancing visual appeal or mastering social platforms, we have got you covered. Dive into the world of impactful branding with us and see the difference. Follow the brand for more insights and expert tips. Don't just be seen, be remembered. Join us now. Ready to elevate your brand and make a lasting impact? Dive into the world of the Follow brand where insights meet action. Shop now at our e-commerce store for exclusive merchandise that speaks to you. Transform, engage, and soar with 5-Star BDM. Your journey to brand brilliance begins today. Tune in for our next show or click on our website at www.5starbdm/followthebrandtv. Thank you.